Hello. So we are now live with day 4 of 99 days of deeper embodiment. This is super exciting. Day 4. So we only have a few more days to go out of the 99 to dive deeper into embodiment. My name is Jason King. Welcome to my live stream. If you are just joining me for the first time, I welcome you. If you've been following me for some time, I also welcome you. This is a fun space where we can really get some clarity on what is embodiment from the perspective of self-realization, from a non-dual perspective, and how does that fit into daily life? How does that fit into actually living? If you are here, leave a comment, post, say hi, so that I know you're watching. And if you have any questions that come up, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll see them. Or you can always send them to me through Messenger or on Instagram. Instagram is infinite.i.m. Or my email, which is infinitejasonking@gmail.com. Hello, hello, Aiden. Nice to see you. Nice to have you here. Welcome. Welcome. So today, I was feeling into the topic for today. We left off with a question yesterday that I was diving into from someone that had written in. And that question, part of the question had to deal with health. And so I wanted to begin to dive a little bit deeper into that today, because that's something that is coming up all the time for all of us. There's no one that can avoid the health issue if you're in a body. It's part of the experience. I mean, bodies have issues. We all know that, right? So there's no way around it. There's no way to avoid the health issue. So that is a question that we all have that comes up for every single one of us. And so, yeah, I think that it's a really good thing to get some clarity on that, because we can really go down some rabbit holes with the health thing, can't we? I'm sure we've all been there. I have. I've been down many. Yeah. So, um, from a what do I want to call this perspective? An infinite perspective, not an infinite perspective. It's from the perspective of the all. There's never anything wrong with anything. From the perspective of what you are, from the perspective of presence, there's never anything wrong with anything. And so we can say from God's perspective, there's never anything wrong. So anything that's showing up as far as a trauma, as far as a health issue, as far as something that we need to resolve or go into in any way, is part of the illusion. That's the easiest way. That's the easiest way to put that, to say that. I mean, there is so much around this. It's like walking through a minefield, because when we're knee deep in a trauma or identifying with a trauma, then nobody wants to be told, hey, you're just imagining that. Imagine, yeah. Oh no, you're just imagining that. You are experiencing a trauma, but you're imagining that. That doesn't work. No, that's not. That's not helpful. Not helpful at all. You know. So sure, from a non-dual perspective, it's all okay. Always. There's never anything wrong. But if I'm knee deep in a panic attack, and that is what is showing up for me, if someone walks up to me and says, "Oh, that's just in your mind," then the reaction is going to be one where I want to slap you. Like, no, this is what I'm really experiencing. Yes, I'm really experiencing this. So this is where it gets a little bit interesting, you know? And it's funny because I see a lot of this back and forth on the internet when I'm feeling into what's going on for people. And there's a lot of times where someone is feeling something really, really deeply. And then rather than meeting that emotion, rather than being with that emotion, then the response or the reaction comes from a non feeling place. It comes from a place in the mind, it comes from a mental place. And of course, if you are having an experience where you're deep in an emotion and I come at you with some sort of a mental idea about it that I can't actually get into the emotion, I can't actually meet you there, I can't actually feel it with you, then you will feel separate, obviously. And I am separating myself from what is arising in my experience because I can't feel it either. Mm, let's see. I want to move this a bit because it looks like I'm like high up. It's actually just I have it placed a little bit. I don't have. Maybe I'll try that next time. I just noticed that. Okay, so diving a little bit deeper into healing. Um, Healing is always about the mind, always, and this is something that's really difficult for um, a Western perspective because a Western idea of it is that there is a body and that there is something physically wrong in a body when there's something not well. And so this is where we get hung up all the time. We want to identify what is wrong in the body and find a solution for that. And so we're constantly treating the body as if the body is where the issue is. And yet the body is nothing more than a conglomeration of ideas. And so when we're always going at it from the perspective that the body is real, then that limits our ability to actually heal immensely. Not only does it limit our ability to actually heal immensely, it limits the tools that we can use to heal. If I can simply move into the understanding that it's the mind that's creating it all, then all of a sudden I have an immense amount more access to healing. There's a lot more at my disposal at that point. But if I'm always stuck in the idea that the issue is in the body, then I'm always looking at it from the body perspective. And if I'm always looking at it from the body perspective, then I'm limited to the methods, which I would call methods of madness, that the dream gives me in order to heal the body. Methods of madness. Which, what are those methods? All of them are looking at the body as if the body is something, and as if the body is doing something wrong, and as if there's something that we have to diagnose and treat within the body. And so it limits my ability to touch what's there, because all of a sudden I'm in a very real, to me, seeming world where the body is not performing correctly. So in learning how to heal from a shamanic perspective and learning how to heal with plants, one of the things that well, first of all, let's just begin with the understanding that when healing with plants and when healing with the shamanic tools that I learned in the Amazon, it opens the body and it becomes visible that it's all one field of consciousness. There's no separation within this. It gets seen very clearly that it's all just one field of consciousness. And so, in healing somebody in an ayahuasca ceremony, for example, the body gets opened up and then it gets seen what ideas are there. And there's no confusion about the fact that what we're looking at within that is a field of consciousness, and within the field of consciousness, there are ideas. If there was confusion about it, then there wouldn't be any authority, there wouldn't be any ability to do anything about it. Because if I'm confused about where I'm coming from within that and my ability to actually change the mind, then all of a sudden I become open, and these are ideas that can attack me. And when I talk about an ayahuasca ceremony, if you've had an experience like that, when when you're in an ayahuasca ceremony and you're using a plant medicine and you're using something that changes the way that you're perceiving reality, then all of a sudden ideas that are there take different forms, and they can look like demons, for example. And this is very real as well. However, this is still all within mind. And you see, so this, what I'm sharing for you, is an way of seeing that the body itself is within mind. There's nothing separate from mind. And so with the shamanic healing, we learned how to sing out diseases, to sing out illnesses, to release traumas through song. Connecting with presence, connecting with what is, and then channeling that through song to shift or move and open locked or stuck energies, which are just ideas. And in my experience with healing many people, I've seen cancer sung out of a body within 3, 4 ceremonies, completely gone. Because all of the ideas that were forming the cancer just got liberated from the body. So you see how limiting it is to actually look at disease, to look at illness, to look at trauma as if it's simply a body issue. If it's just something wrong in the body, then I don't have any ability to touch it. Then I need to start using medicines and substances and surgery. There's no ability within me to actually influence the ideas that are forming or creating those symptoms within the body. So the first shift that's necessary is to recognize that the body is a manifestation of mind. And this is drastic. It's a complete and total paradigm shift. Because if body is a manifestation of mind, then everything is a manifestation of mind, and everything is a manifestation of mind. Which means that if everything is manifestation of mind, then I have the ability to change mind. You see, and this is where there's a lot of resistance. There's a lot of resistance to accepting this authority. Because if I accept this authority, then any sort of idea of being a victim is a role that I'm just choosing to play. So, yes, I mean, I've had intense trauma in my life, and I've had to process intense trauma through this body, not just my own. Because when you get to a level of seeing where you're seeing it all, then you're feeling it all as well. And that's okay. It's completely the way that it should be. So when I say I've had to process intense trauma in my life, then I'm not saying that to say, oh well, please feel bad for me. No, this is a progression. It is a growth. It is a maturation within consciousness. And so, moving back to the example where someone is experiencing panic attack, and they're very deep in the experience of a panic attack, and this is what's moving through their body, then throwing the book at them and saying, "Hey, stop playing the victim game. Just stop." That is not a response to what is actually here. That is a reaction that says, "Oh, I don't want to feel this." A response to what is here would be, "Oh, I'm that too. I can feel that too with you." Because there's nothing separate from me. And in this way, then it all begins to shift. Because I'm not running any ideas that say that there's something external to me that I can't feel, that I can't touch, that isn't a part of me. And this is where the sage is so powerful in its ability to shift consciousness for uh, masses amount of people, for very large um, sectors of consciousness. Because a sage is not registering separation at all. And this is where healing comes in. Because if I am sitting here in timelessness, which timelessness, to be very clear about that, is when I'm not going into thoughts of the past and creating thoughts of the future. I am simply here, present, as I am. And this is something that I find that I will probably repeat over and over and over again, so that we really get a sense of what it is as we are moving through deeper embodiment. Because embodiment is all about maintaining presence within this timeless space. And just to recap, when I'm using the term embodiment throughout the series, then I'm speaking about embodiment of the self, which embodiment of the self is um, the embodiment of the awareness that I am whole and complete always. So, how do I embody the awareness that I am whole and complete always? I feel it. I feel it as a felt sense within me, within my body. So, if there's no thoughts to move into, because I am maintaining myself here and now without moving into thoughts of the past or moving into thoughts of the future, then all there is wholeness and completeness here and now. Because there's no ideas that say that I could be anything but whole and complete. How can I be anything but whole and complete if I'm not following an idea? And you see, this is where healing is. Trauma comes up, ideas of something that happened in my past is here, it's present. If I see very clearly that I am what is aware of that and I don't move into ideas around it, then it won't stick around. I will give it the space required to allow it to process through the body as it arises, and then it will move on. I remember the first time that I had the experience of true trauma release. I was working with a very accomplished therapist of mine who pioneered a technique called focalizing. His name is Dr. Michael Picucci, and he's from New York City. Well, actually, he grew up on Long Island, where I grew up, and so he mentored me for quite some time. And he came from the same sort of background that I did. Gay, growing up on Long Island, got involved heavily with drugs and alcohol, and then found 12-step groups, which is similar to my own story, because this is what happened to me after I was in the military. I was in the Army for 6 years active duty, and then when I got out, um, drugs and alcohol and parties found me. And so, as I was moving deeper into healing myself through the 12-step program and going to lots of meetings, I found that it wasn't enough, that there was trauma here that was very intense, and that as soon as I began to start to feel it, then I would relapse because I would need something in order to numb it. I would need something in order to um, relax. And then I found Dr. Picucci and I began doing therapy with him. And he came from also the school of somatic experiencing, which is Peter Levine, Dr. Peter Levine. And so this was in 2010. He handed me uh, Peter Levine's name and said, read his book, Waking the Tiger. So I did. And I discovered an immense repository of knowledge on trauma and releasing trauma and what exactly trauma is. And so this sent me on an entire journey of healing myself, going deeper into the traumas that are there, releasing them through the body um, and the nervous system. repatterning the limbic system, dieting plants that allowed the brain to become more neuroplastic, and in with that neuroplasticity, clearing more trauma and making way for new learning. I mean, with after it was, I speak Spanish fluently now. I learned Spanish fluently after 30, and nobody is able to speak Spanish as well as I do now without a gringo accent, just completely fluid um, after 30. And this is all from neuroplasticity that came from the work that I was doing with plants at the time. And what I discovered through time was that the plants are not needed, that neuroplasticity can be maintained through simply recognizing the timelessness that I am all the time. And so I had been using plants to gain that ability to work major trauma through the nervous system, work major trauma through the body, and clear it fully and completely, shifting the way that the neurons fire, shifting the way that the body reacts and responds to the environment around me. And then after a long journey, discovering that, hey, I actually can maintain this myself all the time with focus because it is simply within mind. There's no need to use a plant or substance in order to access this. It is here all the time. And so this is why non-dual teachers point to this all the time, constantly, because it is the answer. However, as an answer, it doesn't clean up the mess in the sense that the mess stays. However, your ability to be with it shifts. Your ability to actually do something about it shifts. You actually are now coming at it from authority. You have the ability to now be with it. When panic arises, when there is a heavy, dense idea or trauma there to feel, rather than contracting, rather than moving into the imagination that you are the one that this happened to, you are the one that is feeling it, you can access the expansiveness of your being and you can allow it to be there fully and completely. You can feel it all the way through and it dissolves. So, for the first time, there's actually authority. There is the ability to self heal. There is the ability to meet anything that comes up and be present with it. And it is this ability that changes the game completely. It is with this ability that we can begin to get curious about what is there without moving into ideas about what we think is there. Because every time we move into ideas about what we think is there, we fall into the imagination. And when we fall into the imagination, then all of a sudden the walls become solid. But when we're seeing from presence, then we can see that it's not really solid. And if it's not really solid, then I have the ability to shift it. I have the ability to sit with it. And as I sit with it, then it dissolves all on its own, effortlessly. So, in healing, shamanically, there would be times when I would drop into the imagination and I'd be running in the imagination and running in the dream and seeing worlds of demons around me, worlds of creatures around me, worlds of spirits around me, and all of that is exciting to a degree. It's fun. There's an exploration there. It's like, oh well, let me find out more about myself. Let me explore these memories. Let me explore these traumas. Let me discover what I am. And in that exploration, then um, there is a risk of forgetting that I actually am the presence that is all, and dropping deeper into the imagination, and then from there I can get swamped. I can get swamped in whatever my mind is playing out, which can be very dark if I'm diving into traumas. And then I become vulnerable to all sorts of ideas because that is what I'm believing to be true. Magic and darkness and all of that becomes real to me at that point. And I've saw it with a lot of people that went down the shamanic route where battles between light and darkness became the norm. And sure, there is healing to be found in lightening the body. There is healing to be found in in battling the darkness. And we can have whole conversations around that, but it doesn't point to truth. And it's truth that gives you the authority. It is from truth that I have the ability to say, be gone. And I say, be gone simply by seeing truth. The truth is that it's just ideas, and ideas don't change me. So every single person that walks the face of the earth has this authority because it's all the same mind. So we all have the ability to wake up and see, oh, it is my mind creating this. Okay, wonderful. So if it's my mind creating this, then what can I do? I can recognize here and now that there is what can be perceived as a higher mind, what can be felt as a higher will, what can be recognized as a presence that is the presence of what one may call the Holy Spirit, of what one may call divine or divinity, of what one may call the self or awareness or consciousness. There is this presence. And the deeper I allow myself to feel this presence, to get in touch with this presence, to communicate with this presence, which is a communication beyond words, which is a felt sense communication, which is a communication beyond thought, because this presence exists outside of time, outside of thought. All time is simply just thought, thoughts of a past and thoughts of a future. And it is in this connection that true healing exists. Because here is where I find my authority, which is the authority of the self, of my own presence, to be with anything and everything, and not be changed by it. There is a verse in the Bible, Psalm 91, it says, "He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High is that person that has that connection with what we might call spirit, Holy Spirit, presence, what is, the self, awareness, that has the ability to be here now, to drop the stories and simply rest in silence. And in this space, there is no more threat. There is nothing to defend. There is nothing to protect. And the more and the deeper that we embody this presence, the more that healing is natural. It is natural. Because there's nothing hooking into an idea of being the one who is sick. There's nothing hooking into the idea of being the one who is traumatized. And this is a teaching that every sage who has ever walked the planet Earth has given. And it is one that the mind rejects. It says no. I don't want this. I don't want to know this. I don't want to touch that which is invulnerable. Because it's fun to play with the ideas of being something that is vulnerable. It's fun to imagine that there is a threat. It is fun to imagine that there are enemies, that there is something outside of me that can take away my freedom, that can limit me in some way, that can make me unwell. And so every form of illness that is showing up in the body today is some form of idea that says that I am something small that can be threatened. And the more we let it all be, the quicker all of these ideas clear out. Because these ideas aren't even ours. They're not even within the timeline of my life or your life or anyone's life that's on this planet today. These ideas are from a very, very long continuum of playing out these ideas on this planet. And so, if we want to actually see in front of us a reality where these ideas are no longer being played out, then we have to get really, really clear on who and what we are, first and foremost, and what is our response to these ideas. How do we respond to them? How do we give them the space required so that they have a place to go, so that they can clear out, so that we're no longer grabbing onto them and making them our own? It is my feeling, it is my feeling, my sense that we are coming to a place on this planet where there are many who are ready to actually step into, again, what is true, in the sense that there is an exhaustion that I feel in continuing to play out these ideas, in continuing to play out these perspectives, in continuing to heal oneself over and over and over again, in continuing to see others that are not healed and that are abusive because of their very heavy perspectives. It is it is my feeling that we are reaching a point on this planet where there is an exhaustion around it. And so with this exhaustion, then there is more receptivity to the message that I'm sharing, which is why it's coming out at this time. And so I love you very much. I'm going to close for today. Have a very happy Saturday, wherever you are in the world. It is really nice out here in New York, so I'm going to take advantage of that and go for a walk and enjoy the weather. Please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch with me and share this message, please, with anyone that you feel may be ready for it, because this is a message of freedom. This is a message of deliverance. And you're very, very welcome. I love you so much. See you tomorrow.